It starts small. It always starts small. A textbook you put on a credit card because payday was 4 days away. A tank of gas. A dinner you couldn't quite afford but needed, that week, more than you needed to be responsible. $2,300. You tell yourself you'll pay it off next month. You don't lie to yourself about it, not exactly. You just believe, the way everyone believes at the beginning, that this is temporary. A blip. A single bad month in an otherwise disciplined life. You don't know yet that temporary is the most expensive word in personal finance. Next month becomes 3 months. The minimum payment is $58. You pay it every time, on time, and watch the balance barely move. This is your first lesson in a language no one taught you in school. At 24% APR, $58 barely covers the interest. You are running on a treadmill built to look like a staircase. By now, debt doesn't feel like an emergency. It feels like weather, just a condition you live inside. 2 cards now, a car loan, $9,800 total, spread across accounts you've stopped fully adding up, because adding them up feels like something you're not ready to survive. You make $3,400 a month. $410 of it disappears into minimum payments before you bought groceries. It shows up in small ways you don't immediately connect to the debt. You say no to a friend's birthday dinner and call it a scheduling conflict. You flinch just slightly when your phone buzzes with a bank notification. You get quieter at family gatherings when money comes up because you've started doing the math on other people's success and wondering what you did wrong. None of this feels like a crisis. It just feels like who you are now. You are not reckless. You are not stupid. You are the median American, carrying the median weight, told the same story everyone is told. That this is simply the cost of being alive in a system built on revolving credit. But debt has a currency most people never calculate, not dollars, time. Every dollar in interest is an hour of your life, already spent before you've lived it. Then one Tuesday night, you do the thing you've been avoiding. You open every statement. You add every number. $9,800. At an average of 22%, if you only ever pay the minimum, this debt will still exist in 11 years. You will pay over $6,000 in interest alone, nearly the value of the debt itself, paid to institutions for the privilege of having spent money you didn't have on things you can no longer remember buying. 11 years. You do the math on what else 11 years could hold. A different apartment, a different job, a child who would by then be in middle school. The debt was never just a number, it was a claim staked on a version of your future that hadn't happened yet. Something shifts. Not motivation. Motivation is loud and it fades. This is colder than that. This is arithmetic finally becoming real. You choose a method, not the exciting one, the mathematical one. You list every debt by interest rate, highest to lowest. You attack the top one with everything extra you have, $310 a month instead of $58, while paying minimums on the rest. This is called the avalanche method, and it is not emotionally satisfying. There's a competing method, the snowball, where you pay off the smallest balance first for a quick psychological win. It works for some people because personal finance is only half math. The other half is whether you'll actually stick with it. But you already know yourself. You don't need the dopamine hit. You need the number to be smaller as fast as possible. So you choose the cold path over the encouraging one. 6 months pass this way, quiet and unglamorous. You cancel 2 subscriptions. You cook rice and lentils on a Tuesday instead of ordering out. You start checking prices at 2 grocery stores instead of 1, and you stop pretending that adds up to nothing. $9,800 becomes $6,200. It is the least cinematic transformation of your life, and it is the most important one. Somewhere in month 4, you notice your credit score climbing, not because you tried to fix it, but as a side effect of the thing you were actually trying to fix. Your utilization drops. Doors you didn't know were closed start to look, faintly, like they might open again. Nobody warns you that discipline is contagious. Once you stop leaking money in one place, you start noticing every other place it's been leaking too. There's a specific kind of silence the day your balance hits zero. No one applauds. Your bank doesn't send a card. You just log in one evening and see $0 where a number used to sit like a stone on your chest. For the first time in 4 years, the money you make this month is fully, entirely yours. You expect to feel triumphant. Instead, you feel something quieter, almost like grief, for the version of you who spent 4 years afraid to look at his own bank app. You forgive him. He was doing the best he could with what he'd been taught, which was nothing at all. You realize debt was never really about the money. It was about the mortgage on your future. Every dollar of interest, a small tax paid to the version of you who wanted comfort before he'd earned it. Here is what almost no one tells you. The wealthy use debt too, but they use it like a scalpel, not a wound. You learn the difference between consumer debt and leverage. Consumer debt buys things that lose value while you pay interest on them. A car depreciating in a driveway, a couch, a vacation that lives on now only in photos. Leverage, a mortgage on a rental property, a loan against appreciating assets, buys things that grow while the debt shrinks in real terms through inflation. The poor borrow to consume, the wealthy borrow to acquire. Same tool, opposite direction. This single distinction is the difference between debt as a cage and debt as a tool. Years later, you take out a mortgage. $310,000. On paper, you are more in debt than you have ever been in your life. A decade ago, that number would have sent you into a panic spiral. Now you read it and feel almost nothing, because you've finally learned to ask a different question than the one everyone else asks. It doesn't feel like the $2,300 credit card balance from a decade ago. This debt is secured by a $340,000 asset. Your tenant's rent covers $1,850 of your $1,970 mortgage payment. Inflation quietly erodes the real weight of what you owe every single year, while the property appreciates around it. You are, in effect, being paid to hold a debt that someone else is slowly paying off for you. You understand finally that debt was never the enemy. Unexamined debt was. At $2,300, debt felt like a personal failure. At $9,800, it felt like a life sentence. At $0, it felt like freedom. And now, holding more debt than ever, it feels like nothing at all, because you finally understand what it actually is. Debt is not good or evil. It is neutral, like fire. Uncontrolled, it burns down everything you've built. Controlled, it heats the house you live in. And maybe that's the part worth passing on. Not the number, but the question. Because your kids will inherit your habits with money long before they inherit anything else. What you teach them about debt, without ever saying a word, is whichever one you're living right now. The question was never, how much do you owe? It was always, what is that debt buying you? A life you already lived, or a life you haven't reached yet? Please subscribe, like, and comment.